Leadership Luminaries Lounge with Kerry and Peggy O'Neill, a podcast about the connection of leadership, philosophy, practice, and impact on society. Get ready to be illuminated.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Luminaries Lounge. Today, Peggy and I are having one of our normal discussions, and we're inviting you to kind of join in and hear and to think about some of it, maybe even send some comments in to us to tell us about what you think about our topic and our discussion. But today we're talking about leading in your own life. And no, that's not a grammatical error. Well, maybe it is, but I intend it to be that way because what we really want to talk about is that leadership doesn't just happen in a organization, and it's not something that someone else does and does it to you. And so we are wanting to make sure we talk about the aspects of being a leader in your own life that makes a difference, because that will be a key to success in operating in leadership and operating as a team member in other teams. So Peggy, why don't you give us your kick-off thoughts about this topic?
Well, I really appreciate what you just said, that thinking about leading or leadering in our lives in general, instead of thinking it's a position or a role or it only happens at work, instead of thinking of leading as just a way of, I mean, we talk about that. We say people are leading their lives, but I think often when people are offhandedly saying that, they're not also drawing upon the opportunities of presencing. Oh, when I talk about leading my own life, I'm talking about leading,
Yes.
leadership, leadering. So what does that mean? If I'm a leader in my own life, then I'm not following somebody. Of course, I mean, there's a way to lead and also follow, because I can follow in a leading way, like I'm here to help that person be successful. Well, now I'm leading, I'm collaborating, I'm thinking of, being with them, leading myself and being with others in a way that we're all leading to help this role leader be successful. So, but so that it becomes a way of living my life, that I'm thinking of leading and just the questions, what would that mean to lead my life all the time as a leader?
Yeah.
Leader.
You and I talk a lot about the fundamentals of success in an organization and leading an organization, or in leading in general. And I believe that just as that is required to have a high degree of self-integrity to lead an organization, you really need to know yourself. And you need to be clear about what you believe and what you think. And, you and I have talked a lot about our faith traditions or philosophical backgrounds about that. And so maybe you might have something that you might want to share about from your philosophical backgrounds. And of course, I got something to say about everything. So
Right. Well, I do often talk in my work about wisdomary leading, thinking of encouraging people to lead their lives with wisdom, lead their organizations with wisdom, and that leading means leading, again, all the time, leading my life, but leading a team, my family, my community, and so to bring in, as I lead, the teachings of the great wisdom traditions. I talk about it like that we're all one being, and how might we lead if we thought about it that way. We're all familiar with do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and that's a way of leading and living that's aligned with wisdom philosophies, wisdom understanding. And so to approach leading my own life and leading and living in that way.
Yeah, and from the faith tradition also, of Christian faith in particular, that I'm most focused on. And again, just to remind everybody, my job is, and we're not trying to evangelize anybody to believe our philosophical or religious beliefs, but you want to know about it, hey, give us a call or give us a comment. We'll be happy to tell you more about what we think. But from that perspective, though, you don't have to believe what I think, and you don't have to take it for a factual a fact. But
Or
there,
believe what I'm saying either. Same thing. Yeah.
exactly. There's a Christian parable that that kind of drives me, and a point that I'd like to make, and that is about taking action. Many of you probably have heard about the parable, or the story of where Jesus fed the 5,000 people. And the backstory of that is that these people were gathering because Jesus was doing lots of great signs and wonders, and lots of things were happening, and it was a great show. And in those days, though, there weren't a lot of restaurants or things around, and so the people traveled from great distances, and they were sitting on the side of a hill. And this says there were several thousand people that were there. And the day had gotten late, and the people were sitting around, and so Jesus's disciples were concerned about the crowd. Now, one of the things that was interesting is that they asked Jesus to send the people away so that they could find food for themselves. And Jesus told them, "You feed them." And that is something that has really struck me as a powerful example, because what they did, and their reaction was, is that they started thinking about their deficit. They started thinking about all that they didn't have, and all that the difficulties, and how many people there were, and how immense the job was, and how literally impossible it would be to carry out what they were asked to do by their leader, their boss. And so what he told them to do, he said, "What do you have?" And they said, "Well, we got a guy, a boy that's got a few loaves of bread and a few fish." And he said, "Bring them to me." And they said, "That's not going to be near enough to feed even just that one boy, that that you can imagine all these thousands of people." But that's the point where a miracle happened. And that was another concept, and that concept is faith. And that faith in understanding that if you take action, then you and I have talked about it, whether you believe it God, or whether you believe it the powers of the universe or whatever, but there's a fundamental principle about taking action, and it seems like that the powers that be will honor action. And so as you start moving, things start moving around you, and others start moving around you, and things begin to happen, and you're able to take on a task that you thought that would be literally impossible, and be successful because you took action with what you had, rather than receding in fear, in your own fear of your personal inability.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I mean, there's a quote that I won't be able to remember. It's a long quote, but that when we're committed, all manner of forces of the universe come into play to support that commitment and turning out. So exactly when we stand for something, or we're determined about something, we start moving forward with what matters to us, or what we're up to. Like you said, instead of looking to, well, what I don't have, or I can't, or this is impossible, or I don't know, but to start moving forward with the faith that somehow I'm going to know. I'm going to know the next step. I'm going to know what to say next. I'm going to know what to do next. Or someone else will come into the picture, or some other thing will come into the picture to help me actually accomplish what it is that I'm dreaming of right now, or imagining, like with them feeding all these people. That, yeah, that's a beautiful story to tell, especially about, again, leading our own lives. Sometimes we feel small, we feel limited. Well, gosh, who's this little person here to do this or that? But instead of letting, if I have a sense of this is the place to go, or the way to go, that I start trusting that there's something I'm getting a nudge to do it. Let me honor that, And then as I go forward with the energy of this can turn out, then again, people can show up, money can show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've had that experience a lot in the last several months myself. And so, yeah, it's a great story, Kerry. Yeah, go ahead.
And one of the things I'm wanting to kind of echo around that is that having faith that what you're working on, what you're intending to do is a worthy cause. Because I think if you believe that what you're doing is not really worthy and not the right thing to do, then you don't have that power of commitment or faith to move forward. But if you know it's a worthy task, feeding the hungry, accomplishing a thing, making your organization more successful, accomplishing the task that your boss has given you, then that is a power builder inside of you that gives you a level to something to build on to build that commitment and faith to get it done.
And it's also an attractive energy. People are attracted to that kind of energy. Oh, something's happening over there. This person's certain about something. This person's going somewhere. It's an attract so that it can help people be inspired or want to participate, find out what's happening with you. Yeah, so it's a great let's say mood maker in an organization or a team to realize, oh yeah, when I get real clear and instead of worrying about it or can we I'm feeling like this is the thing to do. Okay, I'm gonna be in that experience fully as if it is happening, that
Right.
I'm creating it. It's gonna turn out. And then yeah, that really helps bring the team along because they can human beings, we're much more sensitive than we think we are. So we can sniff uncertainty.
Yes. Yes.
We just know it. We can feel like something's not quite certain here. So then I start backing off because I can feel that the leader, whether it's the leader in the role or the people around me and their leading energy, if their energy's all uncertain, then I'm going to feel uncertain too, probably because of the mood of the group and the leader.
That you bring up another interesting point there too, and that is about the being aware. And one of the responsibilities and one of the key factors of leading in your own life is being situationally aware of what's going on in your life and the environment around you. I have become a bit enamored with a lot of things lately, but one thing is the writings of a gentleman by the name of Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And many of you have heard of one of his most popular books, and that is The Black Swan. And the Black Swan concept is that something totally unexpected, out of the blue, that not prepared for happens. And that causes a tremendous upset of everything that's around you. And so, and the reason that it's called a black swan is because originally it was thought that there were no such things as black swans. They thought all swans were white. But then somebody out of the blue, out of an unexpected place, found a black swan. And so the idea then, it brings up an interesting concept, is that if something can happen, expect that it will. And so now you have to start thinking about, and that gets to be this issue around victimhood. So many people are choosing not to be self-aware. And so they're wanting somebody else to do all the looking out for them. And so they go blindly into a situation. And sometimes I think that's a area that a lot of people almost not to say that we have the ability as individuals, and most individuals have the ability to control or lead themselves into or out of an economic hit for losing a job or whatever. But let's just take the situation for a turnaround or a slowdown or a mass layoff or in an organization. Those generally don't happen overnight for one reason. There's usually something going on around them. There's either the sales are not what they're supposed to be. There's some kind of risk that was not properly accounted for, and people know about it, and you talk about it, but nobody has done anything. You haven't seen that risk being addressed. Or there's something that you know about, and you can feel that there is competition around you. And so you know that the market dominance or your position of power in this field or service won't last forever. And so you know, you don't see the preparations for how to deal with that. So one of the things about being a successful leader in your own life is to be situationally aware. And to be a leader in the other organizations is that you need to plan on that your teammates and your members of your teams, they're really not stupid. And you should really expect them to be situationally aware. Talk about what's going on. Let them know what's happening in the business or in your organization or in your division, and you know, the risk, and people will adjust accordingly. And you will feel better because you felt like you were honest, and that, you know, and one of the things I guess in project management and kind of in life in general to me is this kind of a stance that I've taken is that I want nobody to be surprised about what I do, either up or down. No surprises. You know, when I'm running a project, I don't want the project leadership or those customers to ever be surprised about the outcomes that are going to happen. If we're going to make it on time and under budget, you know that. And I've been telling you that for a long time. If there's something out there that's risky and I don't know what it's going to be, and I'm seeing that risk come closer and closer into view, it's my responsibility to tell you that. And if we're going to be individuals, then you need to be aware of that yourself. If you see risk in your own life or things that are happening, it's your responsibility to be aware of that and start looking for alternatives, or what can I do to make myself less fragile. And that's another one of his books, is later books, is called Anti-Fragility. But the idea is that you are able to absorb those shocks because you understand the weaknesses in your own system and in your own environment and in your own being, and you are taking adequate protections, hedges, or whatever to shore that up as best you can.
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations and individuals aren't like sitting down. It's a version of scenario planning, I think, is a bit of what you're talking about too, which is what is happening in the world? How could that impact us? What's happening in our community? What's happening with people? Then sitting down and taking and just starting to think about the potentials and how they can affect our business or affect me personally. And then, well, so what does that mean I might want to do now or be paying attention to or stay on top of? Because even though so many of us act like nothing's ever going to change, you know, one of the biggest constants there is change. Everything.
That's the only constant. Yeah.
This moment's brand new. It's never happened before. Who knows what's going to happen in this moment? But we can at least be paying attention to what we are aware of that's happening in the world and sitting down. How does that impact my business? And how is it impacting my employees? If I'm, you know, so we can think, well, these world affairs don't impact me or my employees. But if nothing else, people are, you know, when there's a lot of war going on in the world, people are feel uncomfortable. Like their mood's a little off. So being aware of that, and then how can we tend to it in the organization or in my family, or, you know, do we want to talk about it? Do we want to at least acknowledge, yeah, there's probably a lot of fear and concern in your lives, but here's how we're looking at this in the business. We are paying attention to this, and we understand this is impacting you. And so we want to also help you feel safer here. What do you need to know that you're safer here? So that's another way to engage with being aware and self-aware of what's just happening and where could things go in the future and thinking about it.
Yeah. And it happens in all sorts of areas in our personal lives too,
Mhm.
personal
Mhm.
finances, our health management, the relationship. Am I investing the right amount of time in the people that are closest to me? Well, if I spend all my time at work and other clubs or whatever, and all of a sudden now those things are unavailable, then this person doesn't really know me, and it turns out they may not like me very
Right.
much.
Or vice versa. I realize, oh,
Right. Yeah.
wait.
And now what do I do? Right. So it's incumbent upon individuals to be successful in your life. You need to be aware
Yeah.
and take action on what you see. Now, one of the things again that kind of goes back again to that principle of faith is that if you've done the things that you know to do, you're looking around. Not all things that happen out there are bad. There
Mhm.
are opportunities along with that. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you have to be prepared to take advantage of an opportunity.
Mhm.
And so it may be scary to jump out and do something on your own, or to follow a calling, so to speak, that you know that you need to be following because you feel the desire, the commitment to take a stand to do something. And you don't know how it's going to work out, but you've prepared as best you can to take advantage of this opportunity. Um, then you just need to pull the trigger because that causes another type of internal conflict that makes you dissatisfied with your life. You know something that's not right. You know you're not doing what you think you should be doing. And so it makes your life actually pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Um, I often talk to my other preacher friends, and everybody, all preachers, by the way, we all have our calling story,
Mhm.
and I just share a little bit of mine, and again, you don't have to believe me for why I did it or whatever, but I can tell you that I knew that I had a calling to be in the Christian ministry. But I also had a desire to be successful in the corporate business world. And so I was having trouble understanding how I could reconcile those two things. And so I kept putting off recognition of my calling and recognition of my calling and recognition of my calling. And I'm not an angry person, and I'm generally a pretty good mood person. But as I denied that calling in my life, it built up anger over time. And I remember that it came to a head one day, and it seems like that's the way that life is that things come to head at a point at a time that you really have a whole bunch of other things going on. One was that my wife had taken our kids and they were out playing somewhere. I think they went to the zoo or something like that, but the grass was almost like 8 inches tall, and I've been working overtime, and I've been working and working and working, and so either I could go with them and cut and have fun at the zoo and then think about all this grass that was growing high and the neighbors were thinking about the grass, or either I could go out there in the hot sun and cut the grass, and so I was out there by myself cutting the grass and they were out having fun and I was angry and I was cutting the grass mad. And there's
Poor
a
grass.
yeah, and there's another story about the calling of the Apostle Paul, and when he was called into the ministry, Jesus himself actually talked to him on his road. He was going to actually persecute Christians, and Jesus knocked him down on the road. He was on the road to Damascus, and you'll hear a lot of preachers talk about that, the road to Damascus or whatever. And so I wanted that if God wanted me to do something, I wanted him to make me do it. And he wasn't talking to me, and he wasn't, and he wasn't
It
making me do
doesn't
anything.
happen quite that way, does it?
No, no. And so, but the quiet small voice of him speaking in my mind finally said, you were the one that said that you wanted to serve.
Mm.
This is what it looks like. So either do it or don't, because I'm God and you're not. And so that moment of conviction really hit me like a ton of bricks. And so the idea is that not even God will necessarily make you do something. So you need to be prepared to take action on your own, because there are consequences of not doing what you know to do.
Yeah, we suffer. We suffer, and then and we don't live the life that we're really here to express. There are 8 billion of us. There are 8 billion different expressions of life. And so what's our unique expression? But it does take, like what you said. I mean, I used to do that too. I really wanted some big message somehow to know something. And it's just not how it works. I mean, sometimes it probably does.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it is that silence. Am I being still? Am I listening? And by listening, I don't mean to sounds, but I mean, am I paying attention to those nudges from the universe, those sweet whispers, and they can come from the strangest of places. They can come from a commercial on TV. Something catches your eye or ear and you go, oh, what was that? And then over time you pay attention and the messages start coming together until it becomes clear. And then, but part of the action, sometimes action doesn't always necessarily mean mowing the lawn or, those sorts of actions, but it can also mean um, being open. Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to start paying attention, or back to awareness and self-awareness. I'm going to start paying attention to what kind of messages or insights or nudges I'm getting. So that is a form of action, even though outwardly it may not look like you're doing anything. But there's the intention and the intention and the action is a refocus or a different focus than normal. That becomes an action as well.
You brought up something that also I've heard in several different environments, and it's that concept of muscle memory. And,
Mm,
and a lot of people, there is, this physiological thing of I know how to do something because I've done it so many times before that I don't think about it. But it really is a concept or emoting the cliche of experience. The more you do something, the
mm,
more you're aware, the more in tune you are, the better, easier it is to hear.
mm,
The more you listen, the easier it is to hear what there is to hear. The
mm,
more aware you are, the more you see.
mm,
And so the more you take action, the easier it is to take action.
mm,
So and so the idea is that if you are listening to our conversation, you say, "Huh, that sounds pretty interesting. I'll think about that some more." That's a good start to think about it, but do something about it. Start leading in your own life, and don't sit back and wait for things to happen to you.
yeah, yeah. Be open, be a stand for leading your life, leading in your organization, no matter what your role, and participating, acting, and listening to those nudges.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to mention, and we won't get too much into it, but I know you started another work by taking action. Right now in our American society, but pretty much all over the world, in democracies, there is a challenge to the well-being of democracy, and a lot of people are wringing their hands and are really concerned, and there's reason to be concerned. But one of the things that's really interesting, and you brought out a really good point, and you can feel free to share as much as you want to about it. But you made a decision to stop wringing your hands and do something about it. That's really admirable. You want to share just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's a very long story that I will make very short. But basically, finally, a few months ago, after trying to find an answer somewhere else or some other organization that was being a stand for democracy in the way that I thought needed to be done, I finally, I could tell nobody else is doing what I thought needed to be done. whether I was right about that or not, I didn't know, but I could just, but because it wasn't an ego, I could tell it wasn't an egotistical thing. I wasn't trying to be right about anything. I could just really feel this pull to be a stand for what I thought ought to be done to help us preserve democracy in this country and be a hope, a model, a beacon for all democracies and non-democracies in this world. And so I started moving forward with creating an organization, an initiative, and exactly what we were talking about earlier, by taking action, having faith, not knowing where it was going. I didn't have a particular plan, just started moving. People started coming, things started shifting in my life. It's built a lot of momentum. So yeah, that's exactly, so it works exactly the way we've been talking about. That's exactly how life works. Yes.
Well, that was why I wanted you to give that example. And when you and I talked about that, there was a couple of things that you said that were really striking to me. And also it kind of leads into this other conversation and this conversation that we've been having. One was the fact that we know that there's something that needs to be done, and that tension is rising. More and more people are feeling that tension. But the issue was there's a lot of people sitting around waiting for somebody else to do something, some organization, some ruling class, something else to do something about it. And then you got that realization that said, nobody's coming.
And I knew I couldn't live with myself. So kind of like what you were saying when you got angry because that wasn't real clear, but you really knew there was something else. I could just tell I wasn't gonna be able to live with myself if I didn't do everything that I could to first listen to this and then to take the action that seemed to be appropriate in that moment and the next moment and the next moment. And I should say, even though it started out with being the stand for democracy, the more I engaged with the questions around this and the issues around this and the root causes of it, it's turned into something bigger, which is really how do we want to live? And rather than, and back to one of the issues with democracy that I think has us in the situation that we're in, is just what we've been talking about this whole time. We look for somebody else to lead us, somebody else to tell us what to do, somebody else to make the decisions. And that really has democracy right now turned upside down. It's up for the citizens, the general citizens to be deciding, yeah, how do we want to live? What do we want the governance of this country to be? What do we want our government to be doing? And then to be real involved in ensuring that that happens instead of hoping somebody else, some elected officials, make some decisions. And they're one of us too. So, but it's working in a more collaborative capacity with them. But us, the 246 million citizens eligible to vote, and we have a lot to say. We have a lot of I'm going to use the word power, but I don't mean power over. It's back to what we were talking about, this stand, this clarity. We have enough that kind of force can be really a force for good, a force for all of us to be able to live the lives that we really want to, as we come more and more together to get clear what we want, be a stand for what we want, and then ensure that that happens. But not hoping somebody else waiting someday. No, we're going to do that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've kind of got to the limit of our normal conversations. We don't want to bore people too much, but we're really excited about being a leader in your own life, or leading in your own life. Leadering, I kind of like that term, leadering.
I like it too, Kerry.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can't add it to the dictionary here. Leadering in your own life. But anyway, the idea though, and just kind of reviewing a few of the key concepts we said, is that start out with intentional self-integrity, being honest with yourself about who you are and what you really believe and what you think. And then being aware of what's going on around you and having the courage to do something about it if you know that it's not right, or if you see an opportunity, or something that needs to be changed, taking a stand and having the courage to do it, and then having faith that you don't have to have all the answers, and that there are some things that are beyond your control, but the universe honors that commitment and stand, and good things happen to those that take action to do good things.
Mhm.
Peggy, anything else that you'd like to add to the conversation?
Yeah, and just knowing that action again can be internal action, can just be this sense and this knowing and this listening to what's like arising within, like this volcano in a way. Something's going on here, and to listen to that, so that can be an action too. Is to honor that there's a knowing over here. So can I
Exactly.
honor that, and not in an egoic way, not in a, but in a. It's just the honoring the soft voice. This, yeah.
Yeah. Well, um, as you go forth in your daily lives, we commend you to continue leading in your own life. And I think I've tried to start my own little sign off. Peggy, anything that you want to say before I try to get to my own little sign off?
Go for your own little sign
I
off.
know no
So
sign off.
thank you everybody for being with us today. I will say that I really appreciate our listeners, and happy that we spend this time together.
Thank you, Peggy. I really appreciate our conversations. And for all of you out there too, let your light shine. Thanks.